Hello, welcome to the Word Cafe podcast. This podcast has been designed with curated content that centers on the power of words. Can we really do anything without speaking? Can we really do anything without the agency of words? Yes, that is what this podcast is all about. And I am your host, Amakri Isogoye, your neighborhood word trader. I believe in the power of words, for it is the unit of creation. I trade in words to profit my world. Hello, people. How are you all doing? You are welcome to the Word Cafe live show. How do we begin this? You know how we begin this. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything, wherever you are. Join in listening to us on this show. How are you doing? Yes, it's been a wonderful, wonderful season. Yes, the celebrations are over and we are back. Yes, work is here again. Life is here again. What are we doing here this evening? You're wondering. You know we're back to have that wonderful discussion. You know how we do it in the cafe? We come in to lean on one another, and glean, from our experiences to live, purposefully. I have a wonderful personality on the show. Don't worry. Yes, you're seeing the name already. I'll bring her on very soon. And we're going to be talking about something that is very juicy, transitioning. Yes, it's all over. It's a buzzword now. If you turn on the news, pick up the newspaper, you go on net, you just see that word, transition, energy transition, black transition, career transition. So we're talking about, yes, career transition. And I have a wonderful person that will do this, do justice to it. Her name is Nike Akerele de Souza. Where is she? You're wondering? Yes, there she is. Hello, Nike. Good evening.
Good evening, Macris. Good to see you.
Pleasure. Good to have you on the show this evening. Where are you joining us from? Let our audience know where you're joining us from.
I'm currently based out of the UK, out of London. So it's dark, it's cold, it's miserable, and many
Is
people.
Is it that great today?
And lots of rain, so it's not. It's not great. It's not great.
You're welcome. Well, back here in Nigeria, we have what we call Harmattan. You can liken it to our own winter. It's been windy at night, pretty cold during the day. Depending on where you are in the country. Like if you're down south or at the middle is the capital. During the afternoon, it's pretty hot. Then towards evening, it drops. Then at night, pretty chilly. We are all here. So, you are welcome. Good to have you. Who is Nike Akerele de Souza?
Wow. Okay. Again, thanks for having me, and really excited to be here to talk about careers and transitioning. And I'm hoping that my own shared experiences and life would, obviously be of value today. So who is Nike? So I'm pretty much, I'm Nigerian and I'm German, but based out of the UK. Born and raised in the UK, but I've spent the last 25 years or so in Nigeria. So I just moved to the UK, and I do miss being in Nigeria, I must confess. So I'm a real Lagosian at heart, I must say. I'm a real Lagosian at heart. So yeah. So I recently, as I said, moved back to the UK. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later as well. But I have spent a good part of my career really just floating between the US, Nigeria, and the UK. But pretty much a lot out of Nigeria. A big bulk of my career was based out of Nigeria. So, but I'm more than happy to share more about what I've done over the last 30 years of my career. Macri,
30 years, 3 decades. Whoa. That is huge.
It makes me feel really old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's gone very fast. It's gone very fast. Still very much young at heart.
I can imagine. From your voice. I mean, one can feel that life from your voice. Now, when I looked at your profile, I didn't know how best to describe you. I just said, this is a powerhouse of human capital development, because that is what is written all over your profile. You've been from accounting to business administration and all that, but the underlying tone to your profile is human capital development. How did you get into that space?
So my career started probably just over 30 years ago, essentially, out of the US, and my background was very much in accounting. I went to uni and I studied accounting, and that was what, my dad, and, that was what was in, and, I became an accountant, got all my certifications and stuff. So I did a lot of work working for some consulting firms in the US for several years. And that was good. I picked up a lot of skills, etc. But I really then felt that I wanted to do a lot more. Then came into Nigeria and worked for the global firm of Arthur Andersen, which soon became KPMG. And I spent a lot of time there also continuing my career in terms of providing business advisory services and audit and accounting services. So still going on with my accounting background. But as I grew in the firm, I really realized that as much as it was a natural skill for me, I was very comfortable with numbers, and I loved the variety of working with different sectors. I've done gold fields in Ghana, I've done banks, I've done all sorts of things. But one of the things I really enjoyed doing was increasingly some of the work I was doing in the sort of social impact, NGO, HR side. So I started doing a lot of work with clients, consulting on their human capital, their human resources, and their talent management and recruiting for them and developing HR systems. And I realized quite quickly then that really and truly, maybe this was the beginning of one of my transitions, in the sense that I didn't want to do accounting and balancing balance sheets and stuff anymore. I really wanted to focus on the human beings in organizations and all that. So that was really where my journey started, my first major transition. I think probably after about 15 years in the accounting field, consulting field, I decided to stop being an employee, and then decided to be an employer of labor myself. So it was my first entrepreneurial venture. And so it was a huge transition for me, because I was so comfortable working with other organizations. I didn't know how to run a business. So I then transitioned and I started 2 new businesses focused on human resources, looking at recruiting the best talent for companies. So I work with local indigenous companies, international multinationals, pretty much really just bringing in top talent into their organizations, from quite junior levels, but increasingly over the years into executive levels. So a lot of organizations that started like in the telecom sector, during that period, I did a lot of talent work for them, bringing in a lot of new employees into those organizations and outsourcing. So whilst they were setting up, I was able to provide as much as 200, 300 middle to upper level talent into those organizations to start them up. And that was my journey in terms of really loving the work I was doing in HR. So I would say that was my first major transition, transitioning from being an employee to that of being an employer labor. So that whole journey of looking for new clients under your own name. So I didn't have the brand of KPMG where I had exited from anymore. It was just Nike. So what next? What do I do next with me as an individual? Yeah, so that was really where my journey to human capital development started. So that really was my start when I transitioned into starting 2 businesses, People Prime and People Temp, in human resources.
So what was it like moving from what I will call the comfort, quote unquote, that place you're so comfortable doing your thing, but all of a sudden you felt that prompting is like, this is not it. I need to move. What was it like? What did you really do? Did you just wake up one morning and said, enough is enough, I need to move to another thing? What was it like?
No, preparation is so key, Amakri. I think that we all get this especially after you've worked for many years, and you are getting to a point, maybe you're at a manager level or senior manager, but anyway, you've done more than 10 years, and you then start reflecting on your career. Where do I want to go with this? Do I want to stay in the company that I'm in? In my case, I was looking at partnership very close by, and I was thinking, do I want to stay as a partner in an audit firm, or did I want to go out and do something else? And I felt that, like, literally after 15 years of advising other clients, could I go and do this on my own? And I really felt a thirst to do something different. I think for me, the triggers were the fact that it was clear to me after a lot of self-reflection that I didn't want to spend my life doing audits and balancing books. It was a skill that I had, but it wasn't where I wanted to spend. So we get a sense that maybe this is not what I want to do after we've reflected about what happens next. So there's a sense of dissatisfaction that you continuously have. You're not happy. You just get this feeling that you're going to work every day, and you're doing your best, but it's not really what you want to do for the rest of your life or what you want to do next. So I went through a period of a lot of self-reflection, and it took me about 2 to 3 years. And during that period, I started to think through what opportunities were there in the marketplace. Once I realized that, okay, I didn't want to do accounting and audit anymore. So what next? What were the opportunities? So I started to talk to current clients. I started to talk to people around me and just reflect on what was I good at? What were the opportunities in the business space? What did I want to do next? And I think the human capital side came out quite obviously for me anyway. And so I did a lot of research. I started researching what were companies doing, what were the trends and the issues in the HR space at that time, who were the providers of their service, what were they doing? What were they doing really well? What is it that they weren't doing? And I found gaps in that sector. So, for example, one of the reasons why I set up People Temp, which was a huge organization providing a lot of startup personnel for companies, was there was nobody really doing temping and outsourcing in a professional way. And I felt that was a gap that I could fill. So doing a lot of research. So it took me 2 to 3 years at Macri. I didn't just make that move, so there's a lot of legwork that needs to be done. Yeah,
this word kept coming out, research. But when you sit with colleagues or friends and they express their dissatisfaction and it's like, I'm tired of doing this, I want to move to the next thing. And when you put these questions across to them, they feel like, I really don't know. But have you done any research? You want to move. What have you been doing with yourself? What are you good at? What have you been doing? Nothing. You're just upset. No, but from what you're saying now, yes, I'm dissatisfied, but it's not enough. I need to prepare. And part of the preparation is do a lot of research, legwork. Now, in course of doing your research, was there any need for certification? Like maybe I need to add a new competence or something. Was there any need for that?
Absolutely. So once you've done that self-reflection and you've done all the research, etc., and you're able to narrow down what that next step should be. And by the way, Amakri, the next step could in fact be that you might even need to do just transition within the company that you're in. It could be a departmental change. Maybe you're moving from HR to sales, or it could be that you're moving from Nigeria to Kenya to the US. Whatever those transitions are, the transitions don't necessarily have to be that you leave where you are to go out elsewhere, because you may find after a lot of that research and self-reflection that staying where you are is the answer, but you just need to shift your career within where you are. So, essentially for me, I think that once I realized that I was moving from my core area, which was I'd spent 15 years in accounting and audits, etc., and I was going completely into HR. And then I thought, well, I have a little bit of HR experience because I've had a few clients and everything. I then had to invest almost the first 2 years of when I started that business with a lot of upskilling and reskilling. Yes, I had
24 months.
I did. I'm not saying that's for everybody, but, I went to Lagos Business School. One of the courses that I took was the 6 months program in OMP, Owner Manager program, to begin to convert myself from being an employee to an entrepreneur. So what are the skills that I needed? The strategy skills, the business development skills, the marketing skills, all the skills I needed from being to be a successful entrepreneur. And at the same time, I invested a lot in HR courses. I just started, I was mopping up knowledge because we really have to reskill. You can't go into another sector without having acquired the knowledge and the skills and the exposure that you need, and networking with people in that field and finding out what their problems and their issues and their needs and what are people doing right or wrong. So there was a lot of investment, I think, while I went into that. Even the next transition that I did, which was even after my almost 15 years with People Prime in HR, while I was in HR, my heart just, as I was interviewing candidates for clients, and I was exposed to a lot of young graduates looking for placements for graduate recruitments with multinationals and companies, I just would have these endless interviews, Makri, and I would see really, really bright young people, huge potentials who were not able to, who just had serious skills gaps in terms of not only technical subject skills gaps, but employability skills and some of these things. So I did a lot of work around employability skills for young people. But I really had a burden to go back and start looking into the development space. What was happening in our environment, particularly Nigeria, that was generating young people coming out of university and who just simply didn't have the skills that they needed to succeed in the workforce. And so I decided to start doing a lot of work in the education sector. And I could talk a little bit about this later. But yes, that then became my second transition and my upskilling. So when I then moved out of People Prime, the HR consulting firm, into the space I'm in right now, which is the development sector, the social impact sector. I then recently, once I took that decision, having worked in that field for a few years, I took the decision to take a 1-year break about a year and a half ago, to do a master's degree in this new field that I had gotten into the development sector, the international development. So I've just completed a master's degree in that sector, and I've done a lot of courses, webinars, etc. Just focused on the upskilling is absolutely critical. You have to invest in time.
So I wasn't wrong after all when I said, I don't know, the best way to describe this personality is a basket full of so many things, but underlying all of this is human capital development. You kept using those words: reskilling, upskilling, investment. So you were really intentional, so to say. It's like, this is what I want, but for me to move from point A to point B, I need to be intentional, purposeful, that this is what I'm supposed to do. When I take this in, it takes me to the next step. And from that next step, I want to go to the next thing. So more or less, transitioning is not wishful thinking.
No, it certainly isn't. And I think a lot of us get stuck in, especially when I would do a lot of career counseling, we get stuck in, I wish I could do this. If only I did this. I wish I had the resources to do this. And we stay in that space because we're too comfortable where we are. And so we are either fearful, we are anxious about that uncertain next step. There are no guarantees that if you make this transition, if you put in the investments, that it's going to work. Hopefully, if you've done some really good self-reflection, you've done some really good preparation, you've reinvested in upskilling yourself, there's a higher likelihood that transition will be successful. However, there are no guarantees. And so absolutely key that, we plan these stages of our lives, and the timing of the transitions is also critical. You have to know when it is to exit, when it starts getting a little bit too late. I believe that it's never too late, but I think that there are times when those opportunities are best taken at that time.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, nerds. Come listen to the History Nerds United podcast, and let's make history fun again. We interview today's best authors, whether they are established Pulitzer Prize winners or someone debuting their first book. Let us show you that history is not a boring class you took in high school, but a place where the best stories come from. And we don't just cover history, we also love to chat about true crime, biographies, memoirs, and so much more. So head on over to History Nerds United and let us introduce you to your new favorite book and learn the story behind the story.
History Nerds United. Now, self-reflection, another word, another key sentence you've been throwing out. Self-reflection, more or less, is like you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. So it's a major, should I say, issue in transitioning. You don't just wake up and move. You have to know yourself. Self-reflection. So I think it's very key, because from your submissions, you kept using it. I carried out a self-reflection, asked myself one or two questions. Is it right? Is it time? Okay, is this the best? Is this what's happening out there in the market? How do I put myself and all that? But a good number of us act out of anger or frustration. We can't, should I say, translate that frustration and anger into self-reflecting. Let me ask me, yes, I'm angry, no doubt about that. No, I'm upset. Okay, but have you asked yourself the necessary questions? Now, there's been a lot of transitioning going on as a result of the global pandemic, and some are good, some are bad, some are ugly. What do you have to advise? What do you think? How should we go about this season with the massive resignations and what have you, as they call it, the great resignation happening across the globe? What's your advice?
So I think the great resignations, as we call them, are really also as a result of the self-reflection. I think the COVID period really did give a lot of people across the world time to think and reflect, whether it was forced or not, because self-reflection is a choice. It takes time. And allowed each individual to go back and start asking, fundamental questions. Is this what I want to be doing with my life? So questions around, is this how I want to work? Is this the field I want to work in? Is what I'm doing having any impact at all? And I think that period also made us more conscious about the impact of our lives on others and what was happening around us and how fragile things really are. And that has really helped a lot of people do that self-reflection and decide, do I move on? Do I want to do something else? Do I want to work differently, etc.? And so those changes are happening as a result of that. And I think that if you're an individual caught up in this, who may not have even resigned yet, but thinking through that period, thinking, well, you know what? Maybe I really do need, this isn't working for me. Then that is 50% really of the journey. The fact that you finally accepted that this is not working for me. I am not fulfilled and I'm not happy. So how do I then begin to manage that transition to something else? You may not necessarily know what that next step is, but you know that what you're doing or where you are at the moment, you're not happy or you're not satisfied. And please, let's make sure that we really have done the work to see whether or not we really are. It's not a feelings-based thing. It is the fact that you've done a lot of self-reflection and you've come out the other end saying that I've ticked all the boxes, I've asked myself all the questions, this is not working. What next? So what next then looks at, are you going to stay within where you are? Are you going to go out and do something else? What is that next thing going to be? When do you want to do it? When do you start planning for it? Because it's not about you're resigning now to do what? You've got to have a plan. You've got to have a backup plan. Unless you're really rich and you have a pocket of savings sitting somewhere. Then
even if you're rich, I mean, you won't be docile. You'll be doing something with your time.
You have to use it. So what do you want to use your talent with? your skills, your experience, where's your passion? What do you want to do with your life? Then once you've come across all that, then you've got to start putting a plan in place to do that transition. And then put a timeline. As I said, it took me 2 years to have a timeline. Each one of my major transitions has taken me more than a year. It's, I've had to put money aside. I've had to look at, the reskilling and stuff that needs to be done before I make the transition, and what investments I need once I've made the transition. It is systematic. It has to be planned for, and the resources and the time has to be there. And of course, you have stakeholders. When I talk about stakeholders, you've got family, you've got friends, you've got key people, and maybe a mentor or a coach who can help you through that journey, as to tell you that, wait a minute, have you thought about this? Have you planned for this, etc.? So you need that support system when you're making those major transitions. And yes, and by the way, I think that this COVID period has allowed us to see that there are opportunities, and you can see opportunities everywhere. So yes, out there.
True.
Yes,
very true.
Absolutely.
Now, as a HR professional now, you know that we're grappling with a lot, out there. How best would you say the HR professional should respond to employees, who come with such questions like, I'm tired of this. I want to move. I want to transit. I want to go to do something else. How best do you think the HR professional now should advise employees within organizations?
I think the first thing to do is that HR definitely has to be aware that there's a great resignation. I mean, it's happening in different ways in different countries. So whatever is happening in the US, the UK, etc., is not necessarily what's happening across Africa or Nigeria. So we have to contextualize the exits and make sure that we are not imposing on ourselves things that may be happening in other areas of the world. So, and therefore, an organization and HR would know what's happening within, or should know what is happening, and begin to proactively get a sense of what's happening in the organization. Get a feel of the pulse of the organization. Continue to stay close to the people that, in the organization, to get a feel of, are people leaving? Why are they leaving? The corridor conversations about how dissatisfied or not that people are going to be. Just have a pulse on that. So you can't afford as HR to be disconnected from that, because you need to understand the context of what is happening. And then increasingly begin to identify, I think, the risky levels within your organization. So there are some levels within organizations where employees tend to exit fast. And so being able to identify those levels, being able to tap to those individuals at that level, staying close to them, going back, through the sort of talent management processes and the appraisal process, keeping close to what they're listening to the voices of your employees more proactively, so that you're able to flag any potential, wave of people leaving, or whether you're going to lose some of your top bright stars at different levels, just being able to, monitor and manage that. But I also think that when individuals then begin to come back to us in HR and say, you know what, I've thought about my work, and I think that I want a promotion to a certain level. I've been here 5 years. I want to transition to a different department, a different area, a different location of the business, maybe out of the country, etc. I think it's important that HR works very closely with those individuals. One is to make sure that they are listening to them. They are able to work with them to find solutions to those transitions. And if there are individuals that are moving from doing major transitions within the organization, so for example, moving into senior management, moving into leadership, and some people already in leadership going to the board level, HR has to work to make sure that they are reskilling and upskilling those individuals to be ready for those roles at that point in time, because that's all part of transitioning those individuals. And those individuals that come to you and say, you know what, I've decided it's not within the organization. I want to exit. I want to leave and do something else. That's okay. That's okay too. That's okay. But when they are exiting, what can you do with them? So can you offer them some sort of exit support, depending on the level of the individual, especially people that have been with you for long periods of time? Do you get them a coach? Do you provide them with advisory services for early retirement, for being an entrepreneur? Do you pay for a course here and there? Managing that exit is also very important because it's part of your alumni community.
Amazing.
And supporting them when they've moved on. Very key.
Amazing. I mean, I just imagine for HR doing this, how the people involved, how they'll be indebted to, should I say, the organization, like they care about me, because at the long run, it's like you're still involved in the bigger picture, because somehow what they say, what goes around, or what comes around goes around, or what goes around comes around.
Comes around, yes. Exiting, when people transition out, that exit process is so key. And I can give you a perfect example. Having left now KPMG for 20 years ago, it's been an excellent alumni community for me. They have become a resource pool. They're my mentors, the exit and what happens with your alumni, how you support them in those transitions of their lives is also very important. Beautiful. Now, let's go to that aspect of you. When we look at your profile, we'll see, we'll ask ourselves, is she now a teacher or something? Because we see you in classes and all that. So what's that about, Nike? Let's hear that about Nike. Yes, so I think that, my eureka moments of after working for 20-something years and really have had a good career, I just had another one of those moments where I really was increasingly finding my real core passion, which was really, as you said, human capital development. So I took those HR skills and then I started volunteering a lot. I said to you earlier, I wanted to find out what was happening to the skills of the people I was meeting. Because, we complain about our young people not being employable and things like that. I just got tired of listening to the problems and I just thought, what is causing this? And then I started volunteering a lot in schools. So I started going to primary schools and secondary schools because I wanted to understand the supply chain. This is the consulting side of me. You can't address a problem unless you go down to the root cause. So what were the problems that was now showing up at the other end where we now had skills gaps, etc. So, and the more I went into classrooms, the more I started volunteering, I landed in my area of passion, which is really how to help young people, including children, to get the skills that they need to be able to fulfill their potentials, to be able to access all the opportunities that many of us don't have. And increasingly, I saw the inequity, the inequality in our society between the haves and the have-nots. Some that are privileged to go to private schools. When you go to public government schools, I started realizing that a majority of our youth and young people go through government schools. They don't have the money to go to private schools. So how do we begin to go back into those government education systems and begin to transform that education delivery so that what comes out, our children, our youth, when they come out of that system, are totally equipped to face the future. So that is really where you see a lot of what I'm doing now in the social impact space, which is really where I then started another one of my entrepreneurial ventures with a team of people, Teach for Nigeria, bringing in young, talented Nigerians who were through a 2-year leadership development program, and then putting them into classrooms to turn around the learning outcomes of children in the classroom. So they're teachers, but they are leaders. So we're grooming future leaders. Yeah. And then we're also putting in the teaching and the methodology and the pedagogy into the classroom. So that's where my passion lies now. So it's the area of my focus now. So that's where you get to see all those pictures. So I love going into classrooms. I love engaging with stakeholders, talking to parents, teachers, etc. Just talking to young people to see what it is that we can do to make sure that they're able to read and write and they can acquire 21st century skills, because it's not an equitable world, and people have to make it. We have to address the equity issues.
Awesome.
You can see that I've transitioned again years later. So transitioned now into, hopefully this would be my major last transition into another career sector.
It's like each time you talk about this part of your transition, you come alive. It's like there's this fire all around you. You're so passionate about it,
Yes.
And it's exciting. And honestly, it's how am I going to put it now? It's contagious. That's the right word to use. I was just looking at you and listening at the same time. I was like, wow, she's just this energy. So what's next for you now? What's next for Nike? What are you up to?
So really just looking at how to deepen my presence in the new sector that I'm in now.
Yeah.
Scale up the initiatives that I'm already involved in. I sit on a couple of boards and boards both in the UK and in Nigeria that are really focused around human capital development. So I sit on the board of Teach for Nigeria, where it is, supporting strategically on how to get children into school, how to get them quality education, how to make sure the children that can't access quality education get access to that education. I sit on the board of Africa Leadership Initiative West Africa, where we're looking at leadership issues and particularly leadership in young people, grooming future leaders, values-based leaders. I sit on the board of a UK organization very much focused around girls' education, digital skills in rural Tanzania. So they're all focused around my passion for human capital development and then just consulting in that space with organizations as well. So very much just looking at how to support NGOs, foundations, and organizations that are working in corporate social responsibility to build interventions that address the needs of society. So that's really where I want to focus more now going forward.
Oh, guys, we can't have enough of Nike. You will agree with me. She's just, going and going and going. Well, I wouldn't say gone, but honestly, it's been an amazing time. Yes, she's just releasing and just giving it out there, all the energy. And
not gone yet, Macri. I'm not done. I'm just starting again.
I can imagine.
Yes,
it's been an awesome time with you, discussing this issue. So how do we catch Nike if we want to catch her? How do we catch her? How do we follow her? How do we keep in touch with Nike? So
I am on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn. It's probably one of the only platforms that I'm active on. And so please reach out to me. I'm quite good at responding. Please reach out to me if you need to, and then we'll take it from there. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Yes. You've heard it. Reach out to me and we will take it from there. Oh, time is not our friend, but don't worry. We will always come back to this space, to talk more, share experiences, lean on one another's, experiences, and build strength from there. Yes, we have been discussing with Nike Akerele de Souza. I love the way that name sounds. Oh, thank you for honoring us. We hope the next time we call you, we will have you here to like release more of your energy, in the house. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Guys, you know how we say it in the studio. You know how we say it on the show. I beg your pardon. This is where we come to lean on one another and build strength from. Nikki, any final word from you?
Thank you, Amakri, for this opportunity. It's been amazing. I also would like to say to everyone that honestly, it's not too late. Wherever you are in the stage of your life, the transitions are inevitable. They will come, but take that opportunity. It's a calculated risk. Just do it.
It's a calculated risk. It's worth it. Yes, till we come your way again. My name is Amakri Isoboye. Yes, I believe in the power of words. Why? Because it is the unit of creation. That is what the Word Cafe is all about. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Before we sign off, I just want to encourage you. Yeah, it's been a wonderful time. And also I'd like to hear from you, your feedback. You've been listening to the Word Cafe podcast. I would love to hear from you, the feedback. If you have any questions, you go ahead and ask those questions. You can reach me at my email address, amakrigaribaldi@gmail.com. Amakri is AMACHRIBALDI@gmail.com. And we'll get back. You know how we do it on the show. Thank you.
Awesome time it has been with you on the Word Cafe podcast today. Thank you for being there. You can catch me up on my social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all at Amakri Isoboye. Also, you can get copies of my books, A Cocktail of Words, The Color of Words, and my HRO notebook on Amazon and on Roving Heights online bookstores. You can also subscribe to my YouTube page at the same address. Yes, till we see you again. Bye for now.